For this last chart, we're going to be creating a pie chart that opens up in a circular fashion. So as we've done with the others, let's jump in with Adobe Animate and create a new document. The size of this document is going to be the same as the others, so it's going to be 1370 by 790. 30 for your frame rate, and ActionScript 3 for your platform type. We'll create a new one. Again, we'll go to the top and let's zoom out to show the whole frame so we can see everything. And on our timeline, let's set layer 1 to be our background. And let's place the blank template inside there. So go up to File and Import to the stage. In this case, we're going to do a blank pie chart and say Open. With that done, down on our timeline, we'll lock it down by clicking on the little lock. Make a new layer. This will be our template layer. With template selected, go to File, down to Import to the stage. Let's choose our pie PNG and say Open from here. Finally, down on our timeline, double click on the template icon on the layer. We're going to lock it down and reduce its opacity as well and say OK to this. Now, to draw off each of these individual wedges, we're going to be creating a special type of circle known as a primitive oval. If you go to your tool panel, we've used the rectangle before, and there is an oval tool, but the primitive oval allows you to break it up into different segments that we can dial in for the exact amount of wedge that we need. So choose your primitive oval tool. With this done, let's return to our timeline. Let's make a new layer. We'll start off with comedy. Comedy is at the top of the list up here. Now, in order to create a circle that's the exact same size that we see on our pie chart, I'm going to place my cursor dead in the center where all the points intersect. And as I click and drag, I'm going to hold down my Option key to make a circle from the center. I'm also going to hold down my Shift key. So Shift and Option will allow me to draw off my circle to the exact size that I want it to be. With it created, go over to your Properties panel and open up the Object sub-property. From here, we can not only change the fill color, so with it selected, we'll click on Fill, and we'll hover over the comedy to pick up that bright magenta. Then at the bottom, we can change up the start and end angle. When you do this, you can see it'll start to open up, and this will give us our wedge shape that we're looking for. What we want to do is to align the wedge as close as possible to the template that we see. Again, if it's off by a little bit, I'm not going to count off for it. But you may have to actually select the number itself and use your arrow keys to go up or down to dial in the exact amount that you want. From here, you can select these, and you can change up the end angle as well. Just know, sometimes you may have to overlap your end angle, as I'm doing here, for it to get exactly where you want it to be. Once you get the pie position created and set for the fill, start, and end angle, you're all set for that particular layer. What we want to do is to make a copy of each layer and then change the appropriate color, start, and end angle for each part. So rather than reinventing the wheel, pun intended, let's go down to our timeline and let's make a duplicate of the comedy layer. I'm going to control click on it, and I'm going to tell it to duplicate layers, and this will give us a copy on top of it. The next layer we're going to look at is going to be our sci-fi layer. So I'm simply going to double click the name and rename it sci-fi. From here, I've got that layer selected. I've got that object selected. So I'm going to click on the fill color and then pick up the color for sci-fi, and then finally change up my start and end angle so that it matches what's on here as well. Again, if it's off by a little bit, that's okay. As long as they line up and match along their edges, that's what I'm looking for. Whoops, let's zoom back out. With Sci-Fi done, again, let's go down to our timeline, right-click on it, and we're going to duplicate that layer. The next layer is going to be Drama, so double-click the name, call it Drama. With the object selected, you can click on the fill color. Let's make it yellow, and then change the start angle by bringing it down and the end angle to match. Repeat this process for each of the romance and action as well. Go down here, duplicate the layer, rename it. In this case it'll be romance. With it selected, change the fill color to match the orange, and then change the starting and stopping point to match your design. That one done, we'll duplicate that layer and then finally do action. With it selected, change your fill color to be purple, change your starting angle. This time we'll go all the way back around. End angle to be there. Now that we've got all of these layers created, let's create one single mask that can go for all of the layers on top of it. Once again, I'm going to go to my timeline and make a new layer by duplicating the topmost layer. We're going to call this my mask layer. This time, with my object selected, I'm going to set the fill color to just be a solid black, and I want this to fill in the entire circle, so I'm going to set the start and end angle down to 0 so that the whole thing is selected. Now since this is a mask, we're going to right click on it and choose mask, and we need to place all of these inside the mask area too. So you can select the word romance and drag it up until you see the little bar appear, and this will place it inside of that masked out area. You can then click on each sub layer and place it inside and underneath this mask layer. This means as the mask is being created or shown, it'll affect all of these layers that are below it. Also, in order for them to be affected, I need to lock down these other layers too. With the mask layer unlocked, we should be able to edit it and make changes to it. With that mask selected, remember, a mask shows or reveals all of your artwork wherever you see it as being black or covered up. This means if I wanted to reveal this, I need to go from being completely visible like this and have it open up and turn invisible or turn black to show what's underneath it. Now there's no good way to tween animate this, so we're actually going to create a frame by frame style of animation. So to set this up on your timeline, make sure the mask layer is unlocked and all of the sub layers are locked down. With your mask selected, we're going to set the end angle to be right at, let's see if we can do it this way. Yeah, we'll set the end angle to be 1. So if you need to, you can click on the number itself and dial it in, and we'll set it to be 1 as our starting point. Next, we're going to go into our timeline, select the next frame, and let's insert a keyframe here. So insert keyframe. Then as it moves over, we're going to open it up by a couple of angles. So with it selected, again, change your end angle. Let's open it up to 20 degrees each time. So I'm going to set this next angle to be 20 degrees. We can then go down to our next frame, insert a new keyframe there. With it selected, we'll add 20 more to this. So this will make it 40. And repeat this process until you reach 360. So select the next keyframe, insert a keyframe, select your object, and your end angle is going to be 60. Next keyframe, we'll insert a keyframe, select the object, set your end angle to be 80, so on and so forth. I'm going to speed through and do this same process until I reach 360, so you don't have to labor through and watch me do all of this. Alright, with this done, I can scrub over this and you can see how it animates itself frame by frame in opening up. So another way you can create framed animations in Animate is by simply drawing off and changing up every single frame in between. It does take a little bit of time, but you get exactly what you want. Also, while we're here, let's go ahead and add some frames to all of our layers. Going down to our timeline, remember you can click and drag over an entire column of frames. When we right click on it, we can insert a frame and that'll add on the rest of our animation. Finally, when we lock down the mask layer, this will turn it off and this will show and reveal our graph as it opens up. Let's clean up our timeline too. So going down here, we'll choose our template layer. Let's erase it away. We'll have it open up. And I don't want this to start with just a sliver. I actually want it to start with having nothing, and then maybe we'll have a few extra frames at the end so that it will pause rather than just restarting over, because right now it's going to go pretty quick. So if I wanted to do this, here's how I would start it. I'm going to select all of my frames on my timeline, and I'm going to nudge it over to have it start right at half a second, right at keyframe 15. From here, on my background layer, this is where I can select that first keyframe, and instead of starting here, I'm going to click it and drag it all the way back to here. Now you can see nothing's going to start until it comes on right at that moment, and that's what we want. And if we want this to last a lot longer, I'm simply going to choose column 50, and we're going to insert not keyframes, but just a regular frame, and this will allow everything to stay on much longer. So now when it plays through this way. So now we've animated and created our own custom animations for each of the different graphs. As we've done with the others, go up to File, down to Save, and I'm going to save this as PyAnimation. This Animate Flash file is what you'll need to upload to Moodle for your class grade.